Let's take a look at some weird competitive teams that have been having success recently in Gen 9 OU. First, I have to shout out this one, because the title of this thread really caught my attention. It clickbaited me, you could say. They banned Sneasler, so I used his little bro. When I first saw this, I thought, oh, Weavile. Using Weavile, what a novel concept. But no, they're not using Weavile, they're using Hisuian Sneasel. This is the baby form of Sneasler. And this team apparently reached a rating higher than 1900. This usually wouldn't be that much of an achievement for a more standard competitive team, but for Hisuian Sneasel, this certainly piqued my interest. Sneasler, of course, is a banned Pokemon with its ability Unburden, which alongside Rillaboom, Grassy Seed, was a pretty absurd offensive threat. And you might be thinking, Hisuian Sneasel sounds okay actually, can't it use Dire Claw? No, Hisuian Sneasel does not learn Dire Claw. Oh, well, does it have Unburden? Like its father? No, it doesn't. It has the outstanding ability Inner Focus. It has Inner Focus. It may as well have nothing. I mean, it is immune to being intimidated. That is less than nothing, I suppose. But this appears to just be a very bad physical attacker. I mean, I'm not holding it against Hisuian Sneasel. It's supposed to evolve and become stronger over time, like the hero's journey or something like that. But maybe there's something here that I'm missing. Many times over in these Smogon threads, the Pokemon being showcased is some random guy like Bellibolt or Muck, and you don't expect them to really be that good. But in the Smogon thread, they go into detail about why Muck or Bellibolt or whoever random weird Pokemon is the only thing that could round out this team, and there's a detailed analysis about that. So surely Quackborg here, our favorite player Quackborg, has explained himself. Now there's a lot of text here. Let me move myself to get out of the way of the text. All this text is saying is many different reasons for why Hisuian Sneasel needs to run Terra Blast Water to not lose instantly, because it's bad against Gliscor and Landorus Therian and Iron Moth and Cerulege and Goldango and Galarian Slowking, unless it has Terra Blast Water for super effective or neutral damage against all of these things. So, okay, that's great information that you do need to Terra Blast Water to be able to achieve anything, but I'm not finding anything here about why Hisuian Sneasel is offering anything whatsoever. I think that, to be honest, there is no explanation. Here's one of the provided replays from our hero Quackborg, apparently evidence in Hisuian Sneasel's favor. Here comes Hisuian Sneasel, taking 85%, and then getting sucker punched and dying immediately. I mean, we're gonna need a bit more than this, Quackborg. I think that you need to sell me harder here. Alright, here we go. Here's another one. Hisuian Sneasel against a stall matchup. Let's see what you have. You're in a prime position right here to Swords Dance up, I would think, against that defenseless Blissey, and indeed you do. Close combat into Skarmory for 63%. Now we're talking. Iron Defense was a... What kind of... You've just matched up against an absolute bozo. Iron Defense right there? That's a... I couldn't think of a worse move than that one. They didn't even click Haze with the Toxapex, so you've boosted up even further here. Baneful Bunker, and you've Swords Danced again. You are up against the biggest bozo I've ever seen. Close combat comes down with 30-ish% against the Klotz, and you've been forced out, unfortunately. You've been forced out, but you did great work against that. You did great work there with Hisuian Sneasel. I must admit, you're going to bring it back in on the Mandibuzz and get a gunk shot on the way. Is it going to poison? No. But hey, you took out a Skarmory, and you did some chip damage to a Clodsire, which is very... I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. Alright, Hisuian Sneasel, it's your last chance. I'm going to need to see some results. I'm going to need to see something good here. Swords Dance in the face of an Araquanid Webs, and you've blown it. You've missed Gunk Shot. Well, okay, you've got another chance here. You got another chance. And Gunk Shot does one hit Araquanid lead. That's pretty good. Is this the Terra Blast Water situation you were talking about? Indeed it is. Okay, you've got 2 KOs. Okay, I'm impressed now. And King Gambit's in. You just exited. You've just exited. No mind games that you could have Sword Danced 3 times and then close combated the 4th time or something like that. But look, that's an improvement. That's an improvement right there. 2 KOs is pretty impressive. Here's the final evidence of Hisuian Sneasel achieving anything. We have a prime Swords Dance opportunity. And this is the bait you're talking about, isn't it? The Terra Blast Water. It looks like they saw it coming, unfortunately. The Gliscor clicking the freest Protect of all time. Not too worried about all of that. We're going to sacrifice Samurott. Well, actually, aren't you kind of destroying the entire team? Wait a minute. Wait a moment. I don't think that anything can come in against this, because Gunk Shot one-shots... You don't even go for the Gunk Shot? Oh, you played around Terra... Never mind, you were a genius the entire time. I misunderstood what was happening. I was operating on a lower level. You were way ahead of me on that one. Gunk Shot would have sealed your fate. But you preserve Sneasel for later. Tell me it comes back in, please. Tell me... Give me some good news. You just... Okay, you're the greatest player to ever do it. You've blocked Giga Drain from happening because Psychic Noise blocks healing moves. And I'm speechless, to be honest. Now I'm just here to see how this ends. Psychic Noise, by the way, is a water type attack thanks to Sparkling... What is that ability? Liquid Voice. That's the one. Liquid Voice. You tell me Sneasel's coming back in? Yes. Yes, folks. Okay, Swords Dance Up. Facade. Eviolite Bulk, that is. That's Eviolite Bulk. Oh my goodness. And a close combat finisher. You don't even get the chance because they've already forfeited. Okay, this was the best Sneasel showcase I've ever seen. That game, by the way, that's a 1900 game going on. I just checked the ratings it play. This was a high ladder game. Okay, that makes it even more impressive. Some pretty good maneuvers here. Very well done. After watching that, I can say that Sneasel has Poison, Fighting, Stab, which is actually a pretty nice stab combo. High power moves for both, and the ability to bait Gliscor and Great Tusk and all these bulky grounds into a false sense of security and smack them with the insane Terra Blast Water. The Terra Blast Water also has the benefit of hitting Moltres without making contact and one-shotting it. Often baiting that too, because they think they're safe. In that Blast replay I just showed, that was the most convincing argument in favor of Sneasel. To hit 1900 plus with this team is very impressive. My hat goes off to you. Well done. This is a team built by the player Sanessa8724, and it is an Orthworm team that peaked at number 6 in the world. Orthworm is a ZU Pokemon, so I was a bit surprised to see this. Orthworm is an interesting Pokemon, but without Shed Tail at its disposal, it has kind of fallen off the face of the earth. But Orthworm is being used in an interesting way here. There is some merit to this Pokemon. It's a Mono Steel type with Spikes and Stealth Rock. It has high defense, the ability Earth Eater, which is a great ability, granting ground immunity and an absorption effect, healing you if you get hit by ground moves. This has Body Press on it, which works well with its high defense stat, and Heavy Slam is actually a pretty nice option for Steel Stab, weight-based damage, dealing damage to heavy enemies, and it allows Orthworm to pretty well check fairy types, such as the ones listed here, Clefable, Hatterene, Iron Valiant, Enamorous. But what's also nice about this Heavy Slam option is that it lures in Goldengo and forces them to reveal if they have Balloon or not, and if they do have a Balloon, it will pop the Balloon. This works well in tandem with other ground types, which the team does have, such as Clodsire and Great Tusk. Orthworm is really inviting in Goldengo. I mean, it has a poor special defense stat. It is usually relying on body press for damage, and Goldengo can set up on it pretty freely. But by luring it in to gain information on its set and potentially pop the balloon, Orthworm is assisting the team's game plan. And I gotta be honest, I'm pretty impressed with this idea, and I think that the Pokemon seems solid enough. It's a spike setter, it probably walls a lot of different things. The ground immunity would come in handy. Terra Ghost is the Terra type of choice to block Rapid Spin and also incoming fighting type hits. Sounds good to me. And this team picked at number 6. The Hisui and Sneasel team, I gotta be honest, is probably just someone having fun with a Pokemon that is mostly terrible and very hard to justify using for any real reason. But this Orthworm team, I think Orthworm is unique to other Spikers. It has distinct advantages, and maybe this is an underrated pick in Gen 9 OU right now. This team by Sebas99 Sevilla also caught my attention. Scizor Sun, it's called. And this hit rank 3 on the ladder with over 2,000 elo. The most impressive peak so far, and this should catch your eye if a Pokemon achieves such results with a Pokemon like Scizor. I mean, Scizor has not been a great Pokemon so far in Gen 9 OU. It has lost some of its greatest options, most notably Roost for that healing. And Scizor on a Sun team also seems a little strange because you're boosting up the fire moves that threaten you with lethal force. We've seen Scizor Rain back in Gen 5 because Rain helps out Scizor defensively, but Sun makes it even worse. I suppose you're probably dropping to most fire type attacks anyway, so that's perhaps not a big deal, but still, I've never heard of Scizor Sun before, I don't think. Ninetales is being used on this team. I talked in a previous video about Ninetales kind of overtaking Torkoal as the superior Sun setter in the current metagame because it's faster, more proactive, and has Encore and Healing Wish, which are great momentum moves that work well with the offensive game plan. Encore feels great in this particular metagame because of Kingambit. You can force them into Sucker Punch, which makes them useless, or boosting options, such as Swords Dance. You can just ruin their life by encoring them. And you can dish out some impressive damage too with Weather Ball or Overheat or something on the Ninetales. Now, Scizor is being used here for an interesting reason. A previous version of the team was having struggles against various Pokemon, in particular Dragonite, Roaring Moon, and Dragon Dance Kyurem, which gave you a lot of problems. Choice Band Scizor is able to defensively come in against many of these Pokemon and also threaten them with a priority boosted Bullet Punch. Priority is definitely an important thing to have in Gen 9 OU. It always feels good to have priority moves because you can finish off low health enemies, deal with things like Booster Energy Iron Valiant and various fast threats, or something that's just terrored, leaving it vulnerable to priority it previously was resistant to. So Scizor gives your team that crucial priority option of Bullet Punch, while also rounding the team out defensively, with that Fairy and Dragon resistance that the team sorely needs. This is actually a pretty nice punish against Dragonite and Kyurem, because you do resist extreme speed and do big neutral damage to Dragonite. They rarely run fire coverage in this metagame. It's usually Earthquake Ice Spinner. Sometimes I've seen Iron Head, but it's usually Earthquake Ice Spinner Extreme Speed. And Kyurem gets very punished because you resist both of its stab types, you threaten to KO it with Bullet Punch, and you're not even worried about the DD speed because Bullet Punch has priority on it. Beyond just this role of the priority and defensive typing, Choice Band Scizor is a very solid wall breaker, with Knock Off being a great move in any scenario, but especially on something with high attack. U-turn, of course, for pivoting, especially on a Sun team, getting your threats in the conversation, bringing in your Walking Wake or Roaring Moon. And Dual Wing Beat is actually a really good option on Choice Band Scizor because it gets the Technician boost and it has a multi-hit effect, hitting twice. This is able to one-hit KO Araquanid lead, so Scizor can actually help you out in the Sticky Web matchup, unexpectedly KOing Araquanid, who is kind of EV'd to live everything. That's a good surprise KO for the current meta. And you one-hit KO Great Tusk, as long as they aren't defensively invested. Most Great Tusk sets I've seen in the current metagame are, speed and attack. Sometimes they run bulk, but if they're an offensive Great Tusk, they will just drop to Dual Wing Beat. It's super effective. The occasional Sinister Char is also threatened by Dual Wing Beat. Even though Scizor Sun sounds weird on the surface, this was a great and creative choice that rounded out this team very well, providing not only defensive insurance against some of the team's most difficult matchups, but a way to pivot into your Sun threats and keep momentum up, as well as wall-breaking tools for certain targets that are important to hit. It may not seem that crazy to highlight a Scizor team. I mean, Scizor has been a good Pokemon in many metagames in the past, but I think that Scizor has been really struggling in the current Gen 9 OU metagame, and to see Scizor thrive to such an extent, achieving number 3 on the ladder, especially on a Sun team, which I've never heard of before, thought it was worth shouting that out. And finally, we have a bulky offense team that peaked number 3 and features 2 dragon types that many think have fallen off in modern times, Latios and Hydreigon. Now, seeing Latios on a successful team isn't that strange, even though this Pokemon is ranked UU, which is a significant fall from grace from its previous elite status. It's still got some pretty significant buffs in Gen 9. Its signature move Luster Purge got a power boost up to 95, which, in conjunction with the 50% chance to lower special defense, it's a pretty amazing wall-breaking move actually, and a valid reason to use the Pokemon. You also gain access to Flip Turn for a pivoting move. I mean, previously this was an elite Pokemon, and it didn't have any pivoting move. Flip Turn is a pretty great addition. And Trick Choice Scarf is always a nice option, so Scarf Latios is actually a fairly viable Pokemon that is not too surprising to see on a successful competitive team. It's a little bit novel, but not that insane. Hydreigon is a little bit more unusual though. This Pokemon is ranked RUBL in Generation 9. It has really fallen from grace. It always had an awkward time in OU tiers in the past, a little bit outclassed by other dragons, but in Gen 9, this Dark Dragon typing is feeling like a real death sentence times 4 Fairy weakness when there's so many common Fairy types, especially Iron Valiant in the tier. That's rough. Hydreigon's speed is also below average for modern standards, below base 100. And many other special breakers are just outshining this, especially Darkrai, who exists in the tier now and is a much faster, more immediately threatening and versatile special attacking Dark type. But on this bulky offense team that is running various different pivots, including the Latios I just mentioned with Flip Turn, Hydreigon happens to be another special breaker that can output significant offense with the choice spec sets that also happens to have the pivoting option of U-turn, and that is what makes it fit here. The aim of this team is to continuously keep pressure up with these threats by pivoting repeatedly. And this trio of pivots, Latios, Hydreigon, and Rotom Wash, keep that game plan moving. Hydreigon does also set itself apart from Darkrai with its access to Levitate, granting ground immunity and spikes immunity. Also Sticky Web, which is on the rise with Araquanid rising up to OU recently. Hydreigon's dragon typing in many cases is a deficit, enhancing its weaknesses to Fairy and Ice, but Dragon also provides quite a few resistances which are nice, like Fire, Water, and Grass resistance in particular. giving Hydreigon some entry points to create some offense. Darkrai, on the other hand, actually does struggle a bit more to hit the field. And Darkrai cannot pivot. Even though Hydreigon in a vacuum kind of struggles to fit on many OU teams and is not a popular choice, on this team it makes sense and works very well with the plan of keeping pressure up, pivoting, and not allowing your opponent to get their foot in the door at all. The other threats on the team are Iron Valiant and Goldingo. While these do output some special attacking offense, Hydreigon is the big breaker with the choice specs. Even Latios can't achieve as much damage as Hydreigon can with a spec. So the team needed a special breaker, and Hydreigon is the only special breaker with this set of qualities. These defensive qualities, access to the pivoting to mesh well with the team, and even Stab a Draco Meteor is something that Darkrai can't quite achieve in terms of damage output. 130 power is massive. And there you have it, folks, some weird and creative teams that have succeeded recently in Gen 9 OU. I keep seeing people say that this is such a stale metagame and you see no development. I don't know, I keep checking the forums and seeing new and weird teams succeed at the high ladder. I feel like every week there's some novel new Pokemon that people are trying out and finding success with. It does feel like a metagame where you can experiment and get a lot out of Pokemon that most would overlook. Creative team builders seem to be having a field day with Gen 9. The meta does have a lot of problems, but I don't think creativity is one of them. What do you think, folks? Which was your favorite of these teams? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.